In Chapter 12, we're going to be talking about employee earnings and calculating payroll. So first we need to start out by calculating how much employees earn. So it's important to know the difference of some of these different ways of getting paid. So if you are working hourly and you would say you get $8 an hour, that would be your wage. This is different than someone who would say that I make $60,000 a year. That would be a salary. Commission is another way that an employee could be paid. Commission is being paid based on the amount of sales. So if you sell X amount, you get X amount of dollars. So oftentimes someone who works on commission is also earning a base salary plus commission. If you had a salary and a commission and you added those together, that'd be the total earnings earned by that employee. And total earnings could also be referred to as gross pay, gross wages, or gross earnings. A pay period is the number of days or weeks of work covered by an employee's paycheck. So this varies. Maybe you get paid every single week. So our first example, every week you got paid maybe every Monday. This is pretty uncommon because that'd be a lot of work for the payroll employee to have to calculate payroll every single week. More common, I would say, would be the next two options. So if you work every 2 weeks, that means that you get paid every 2 weeks. This would be like every other Monday. So every other Monday you get paid. So there are 52 weeks in a year. Divided by 2, you would get 26 paychecks if you get paid every 2 weeks. Our next option would be twice a month. So this would be the sample where you get paid on the 1st and the 15th of the month, or maybe the 15th and the 30th of the month. So that would be twice a month. There's 24 months. So that would, or 12 months. So that'd be a total of 24 paychecks. So you could see that for the second option, you would get paid 26 times a year. The third option, you would be paid 24 times a year. And then finally, once a month, that would be 12 paychecks in a year. So payroll. Payroll is the amount earned by all employees during a pay period. So some companies' pay period might be a month, some might be every other week, and some might be from the 15th and the 30th. And the person who calculates this, which we're going to be doing this chapter, is the payroll clerk. So they first determine how much to pay each employee, then also keep track of the withholdings that we'll talk about in 12-2. So some of you might work and use a time clock when you arrive at work. So this would be something that you would have a card, and when you enter and when you leave, you have that stamped with the time that you arrive and the time that you depart. This is an example of a timesheet. So calculating the employee's hours worked, we would look at, okay, they worked from 8 to 12 and then 12 to 5 for a total of 8 hours. And then they came back and worked from 6 to 8:30. So in our book example, anything 8 hours and below in a day is regular hours. Anything above 8 hours in a single day is overtime. So 8 hours in a day or more, then that is overtime. And then you calculate the total hours. So now when we talk about paying the employee, you need to look at how much they work over the course of the entire pay period, because it's also important to note that if the pay period starts on a Monday, per week, if you work over 40 hours in a week, everything beyond 40 hours becomes overtime. So over 8 hours in a day is overtime, and over 40 hours in a week is overtime. So this is an example of a completed time clock sheet. So to calculate our regular earnings, very simple. Take our regular hours times our regular rate. To calculate our overtime earnings, we need to do one extra step. We need to calculate our overtime rate. So our overtime rate is time and a half. So our regular $15 times 1.5. So any overtime hours is going to be times our $22.50 overtime rate. So our overtime, 6.5 hours of overtime times 22.5 gives us our overtime earnings of $146.25. To calculate our total earnings, we take our regular earnings plus our overtime earnings, and our total earnings there for the pay period, $1,466.25. And this is what we will be calculating in section 12-1.